although the video shot by Mariano may display the same modalities with which it would have been produced in reality, it also contains elements created from within the text. It's Mariano himself, who's a fictional character, who sit with Kalashnikov and share tables. When I say that Mariano is a fictional character, but the same thing we can say about Pasquale, the tailor, I don't mean that they are fictional because they just don't exist. They do not really exist in reality. I think their experiences almost certainly belong to real individuals. Rather, what forms them as characters is no longer the same documentary material that constitutes characters like Francesco Scavione, the boss of the Camorra, or Cosimo Di Lauro. They belong to the archives. There is a truth written in there. Here, the fictional character, seen from the outset, they are subject to the need of the text. They become functional within that interstitial space which is always in between reality and its representation. Now, the third figure of this typology is the drawing. This term relates to objects that appear just as they are in history, and they can be recognized as such by the reader. In Saviano's novels, this includes newspaper articles, interrogation file, wiretapping, and so forth. Now, on the one hand, the drawing is a document connecting the literary text with a particular historical time. But on the other hand, it expands its own meaning beyond the limits of documentation. I think a good example of drawing in Gomorra is a newspaper article where Nunzio De Falco, who's a boss of the Camorra, is described not as a criminal, but mostly as a Latin lover, like a guy who had many women, not only Italians, even not being very handsome, and he's being captured just because they kept following his women's. What we see on these articles, when it is extrapolated from its original context, is that it changes its sense and nature. It, said in other words, it loses the objectivity towards what it defines to show the ambiguities of an enunciation that dissolves the Camorra point of view into the account of facts. In other words, a document becomes a drawing only when it is made to interact with other elements to ensure the occurrence and amplification of its meaning. Now, because of such interaction, while maintaining the literary quality of the document, the drawing becomes open to a symbolic interaction with the text. Although the archival document seems merely to have an informative value, and thus is somehow deprived of any aesthetic quality, Gomorra shifts the stress on its symbolic value through a sort of inquiry narrative that blurs the distinction between narrated material and narrative device. When I understand how graph, insert, and drawing not only anchor the text to the historical world, but they also install, beg your pardon, they also install a cognitive function upon the cadastral data, the wiretapping, the newspaper articles, and the document undergoes a conversion from archival object into object of memory. Now, I'm going to conclude. I think that the cognitive work required by a text like Gomorra, but is not the only one, consists in an operation of cross-reading archival materials, not only documents against other documents, but also against the underlying discursive strategies. Here, I think, can be identified a delineation of a double track. The first track is narrative. It may repropose a documented historical fact, or it may follow an unusual path defining itself within a project of revisionism or just counter-information. The second track has a more analytical trait. Rather than try to reach any factual truth, it rewards the manner of its streaming. It questions the archival objects, newspaper, television show, books, and so forth, that pass through, surround, or sometimes even hide the facts. It purports to find not so much a clue, but rather a testimonial trace of those discursive strategies that legitimize a certain state of things. What I call narrative objects may present us with facts to throw the reader into reality, a reality that can be verified only outside the test. But at the same time, they prompt their readers to observe the ways in which such realities construct, disclosing what I would call the rhetorical and ideological strategies that convey the meaning of the events and preside over their retention and management in society outside the